What is going on, YouTube people? In a ever increasing week of hobby news, another one. Fanatics and PSA become Facebook official. They have been flirting with each other with these little side deals, little things here and there, going out to, nice little breakfast, they'll get a little coffee. Then they went to dinner and a movie, and now it's official. They are Facebook official. Fanatics Collect and PSA partner to elevate collecting for all, according to the headline. That is right. We have a formal partnership between PSA and Fanatics for grading. This is something we had kind of been speculating about regarding Fanatics Collect and this transition to PWCC and how all this would work and what grading partners they would team up with. And really the question was PSA. Would they partner with PSA? Would they potentially look to do their own thing? Would they have multiple grading companies open to them? And it appears you're going to be able to grade with all four. All four were listed on that release yesterday. There is an interesting twist on that I picked this up from the Jeff Wilson interview that he did. CGC is actually going to have a grader, it sounds like, on site at Fanatics Collect, and you'll have 24-hour turnaround time, which is a little wild. But that is right. PSA and Fanatics have officially partnered for this. Now, for the time being, this is to submit directly through your basically Fanatics vault, aka Fanatics Collect. So the raw card has to be in your vault. Then you can send it off to PSA. They will do their thing and send it back to go back into your vault, where you can then either list it as a bin, sell it at auction, maybe just let it marinate in there, send it home eventually, whatever it is that you want to do with it. The option to go straight from Fanatics Live is not there. So if you hit a card in a break, you would have to get it to the vault first if you wanted to do that, or you could send it home and submit it yourself. Though that feature does not exist now, I would not be surprised in the future if there was not at least some sort of streamlined process to get the cards from Fanatics Live that you hit in a break to the Fanatics Collect vault. I'm sure right now, if you wanted to, you could just give your breaker your shipping information to go to the vault, and they could just send it there instead of sending it to you if you wanted to do it that way. Just give them that address to send it to and your vault number to get it shipped off that direction. But I have to imagine as we move through in time in these apps, remember, they're only really in phase one of these things. As these apps continue to grow and get more features on them, that these other, quality of life things will come to fruition. But the big news here is the PSA Fanatics partnership, that they are heading down that path for this. Love them or hate them when it comes to PSA. You may never want to grade with them. You might think they are the devil incarnate, which I know some people do based off the comment section. You have to admire the business that they have, the way that they have executed all this from a business standpoint. I had been saying for probably the last 6 months, you kind of have PSA and eBay and ComC and Golden and their little cadre of people on one side, and you have Fanatics on the other. And that is not the case anymore. Really, what you have is all the big companies squaring off against each other. And in the middle, I compare them to Switzerland on Twitter today. You have PSA being friends with everybody. I mean, think about it. Collectors Universe / PSA have been able to position themselves as, think of the hobby as a wheel, like a wagon wheel. They are the center spoke. And then everyone is feeding everything into them. They're doing their thing and sending it back out into the world. You have Fanatics on the outside. Cards are going from Fanatics straight to PSA. Now, cards are going from, you purchase something raw. This isn't set up yet, but we know it's heading this direction. You purchase a raw card on eBay, you'll be able to send it straight to PSA, have them grade it, and have it go straight onto the eBay marketplace PSA marketplace / eBay. You could submit to PSA now yourself and immediately have it go into the eBay vault / PSA or eBay store rather, and sell it that way. So PSA has managed to bring a vaulting service online, competing against Fanatics in Fanatics Collect. Those are two competing entities. They have the other grading companies that they're competing against. They have technically other marketplaces that they're competing against because they're directly tied in with eBay, which is also competing against Fanatics Collect. But there's PSA in the center of it all with their little tendrils filtering out and getting their finger in all the pies. Because they have built up this entity and infrastructure to be able to handle all this stuff. And that's really what it goes back to. The money and time and investment that they put into the company over the last few years is really paying dividends now. And it's not so much, I mean, a lot of it is the capacity side of it, of how many cards they can crank out. That's a large portion of it. But it's all this other back end stuff with integrations and tech and logistics and how things move through their systems that we don't even see. I have no idea how that stuff works. But the fact that they have built it out and streamlined it, that they can have cards coming from all these different places and then filtering back out to all these different places. You know, it's coming from me, it goes to PSA, but then it's going to go to the PSA vault to then sell on eBay, you know, or it's going to send back to me and then I'm going to do with whatever that I please. But PSA has managed to position themselves in the center of everything and basically makes them integral to all these other companies. eBay wants to partner with PSA because they are, you know, the number one grader. Fanatics wants to partner with PSA because it makes their platform better. Even though they're a competitor, and this is smart business by Fanatics part as well. If you want the Fanatics Vault / Fanatics Collect, whatever you want to call this thing, to succeed, you have to have an ability to grade with PSA. Because what's going to happen? Eventually, and like I said, this isn't there yet, but eventually I have to imagine the cards that you open in a break are going to filter in or have the ability to filter into the vault. Or, you know, take this even further, and I'm really looking out now. Say they roll up some sort of e-pack style of thing where you rip packs virtually. It's physical cards, it's real cards, but you rip them online. And you can have the cards transferred over to Fanatics Collect. For Fanatics Collect to succeed, they want those cards to stay in the ecosystem of Fanatics. What's going to happen? People are going to get their cards in there and they're going to want to grade them with PSA. And if they don't have the ability to grade with PSA, what are people going to do? They're going to pull their cards out of Fanatics Collect, send them to PSA themselves, and now they're in the wind. They are out of Fanatics control. They are going to end up being sold through eBay or coming back to the submitter to sell in person. It is in their best interest to partner with PSA, even though PSA is a competitor. PSA has positioned themselves as being needed by everybody. eBay, they want a vault. They want a grading partner that can authenticate raw cards and graded cards and do the whole shebang. Where did they go? PSA. Now, they already kind of partnered with them for the graded card authentication. Obviously, they're going to end up with raw card authentication, and now they have this partnership for a marketplace. eBay gets a vault out of it. PSA gets a selling platform out of it without having to do any or access to a selling platform, rather. And now, really, they have access to two selling platforms. The Fanatics Collect one feels a little more locked down. The cards are going back and forth to Fanatics Collect. I don't know if the option would ever be there. I don't know if they would be willing to do this, but say I submitted cards myself. I just ripped a box of Topps Chrome Jumbo. That'll be up probably tomorrow. Say I just ripped that box and I send cards into PSA. Would they give me the option to reroute them to my Fanatics Vault, Fanatics Collect? As of right now, that's a no. I don't know if they would eventually do that later on in life. They would probably rather they go to their PSA vault. So it feels like this Fanatics Collect PSA thing is going to be a much more, two one-way streets going back and forth with not a lot of external noise. But this stuff can change. Things can expand. Things can shift around. But PSA has basically positioned themselves at the center of all these companies want to tie in with them, because that's how big of an impact they have, whether you like them or not. Once again, I get it. A lot of people don't like them, will never grade with them, but a boatload of people do. Look at the gem rate numbers. And this just continues to solidify them as the market leader, because no one else is positioned to do all these integrations and tie-ins with all these much larger businesses. So, does this change anything with Fanatics and grading? There's been a lot of chatter and talk about Beckett and them kind of falling apart, and would Fanatics swoop in and buy them up? Would if Beckett goes bankrupt, would Fanatics swoop in on that? I don't know that they would. Why would they want to invest the time and capital and energy into what it would take to either A, start up a grading company, or B, acquire someone like Beckett and resurrect it? Because that is not a simple task, folks. It sounds great. Hey, get him out of Beckett's hands, get new owners in there, and we'll get this thing right as rain. I don't think a lot of people realize how big of a disaster that company potentially is under the hood, and how much it would take to fix it and get the infrastructure up and all that stuff. And that's a big expense and a lot of time. So why mess with that when you could just partner with PSA and all the other grading companies? They're partnered with all the other grading companies, but let's be honest, most people are going to use PSA. So you could just have a partnership with everybody else. Yeah, you're leaving some meat on the bone on the grading side of things, but in the at least short to medium run, you're probably saving a ton, because it's going to cost you a fortune to acquire a grading company and get it to where you need it to be. And then even if you do all that, even if you acquire Beckett, fix them, make Beckett great again, whatever, most people are probably still going to want to grade with PSA anyway. So you did all that work, and then most of the submissions are just still going to PSA. And you can't cut that nozzle off, because people are going to want to grade with PSA, and you want to keep the cards in your ecosystem as much as possible. You don't want them pulling their cards out to grade with PSA on their own, so the partnership is almost a necessity. You are willing to give up that grading piece of the pie to keep the cards in the Fanatics Collect ecosystem. That's really what it comes down to, in my opinion. So smart business by everybody all around. If the rumors were true that Fanatics was going after SGC and PSA kind of headed them off at the pass to grab up SGC so Fanatics couldn't, that looks like one of the best buys in history, because it basically blocked Fanatics from easily entering the grading space by buying someone that was ready to go. SGC is in a much better spot than Beckett. Their cards basically sell for more. They are a much more customer service friendly company. They're a much more, as of right now, respected company in the hobby. They're probably easier to scale up. You have less things you have to fix down there, and the price would be cheaper, because you got to remember, we've talked about this before, Beckett has a lot of ancillary things that you have to purchase when you buy Beckett. You're not just getting a card grading company. There's a lot of other nonsense attached to them. And with SGC, that wasn't the case, so it made the price more affordable. But by PSA acquiring SGC and kind of blocking Fanatics, it really opened up a ton of doors for them with these other partnerships, because it blocked off Fanatics from entering into that space cleanly and easily. And now they might not even worry about it. I still wouldn't be surprised if at some point in time they ended up trying their hand at it, or maybe they get Beckett for such a steal of a deal at some point that it makes sense to. But I just don't think it's a priority for them. I think they would rather spend their time and their resources building up Fanatics Collect, Fanatics Live, and that side of things than they would messing with a grading company. Let's be honest. They have a lot of things on a list to get to before they get to grading. Now, that does put Beckett in an interesting spot. Let's assume Beckett goes completely sideways and they end up having to sell out. Now, who's your buyer for them potentially? Would PSA triple down? Would Collector's Universe triple down and buy out Beckett to just eliminate a competitor? I don't know. I don't know if they would go that far or not, but it's at least probably on a whiteboard somewhere. But I don't know that it makes as much sense for Fanatics anymore, unless it was just an absolute steal. But it feels like one of those houses that you buy that's just a pure money sink, that you're just constantly throwing money at it and you're just never going to get your equity back out of it. That's what Beckett feels like right now. So that's all I got for you, boys and girls. Curious for your thoughts and comments down below. The two powerhouses in the hobby align themselves together, and we'll see. Like I said, this will probably continue to expand as time goes on, and it will open up to more and more things. I have a sneaking suspicion. Tomorrow, Topps Chrome Hobby Box video, most likely, unless something else wild and crazy happens as the news continues to flow this week. The Red Alert thumbnail is not done yet. Is not done yet. Give that little tease. Catch you boys and girls on the next one. Peace.